Today we're diving into 3 terrifying cave exploration stories that ended in disaster. 8 hours, upside down, crushed by stone, every heartbeat like a hammer to the skull. This isn't a movie plot. This is a real survival story buried deep underground. On January 24, 2011, 4 members of the Johns Hopkins Outdoor Club, 2 men and 2 women, set out to explore Shetron Cave. Their goal was to determine whether the site would be suitable for future club adventures. They entered the cave at around 2:30 p.m., excitement buzzing as they ventured deeper into the winding darkness. For a while, things went smoothly, until the moment everything changed. As the group began their exit, one of the young men encountered a notoriously tight and difficult portion of the cave. In order to get out, he needed to descend headfirst into a narrow, hourglass-shaped passage. The route twisted sharply at a 90-degree angle, then tightened further into a tight tunnel known ominously as the corkscrew. His companion navigated the section first, inching through with care. Encouraged, he followed with focus and caution. He crawled on hands and knees, lowering himself into the passage, but miscalculated his grip. Within seconds, his leg folded tightly against his chest, locking him in a painful, fetal-like position. The rough rock pressed in on all sides, wedging him in place, completely upside down, his head resting on cold stone. Panic came fast. His 2 female companions acted with urgency and bravery, attempting to free him. They pulled, pushed, and adjusted, but their strength wasn't enough. The position made it nearly impossible to get any leverage. After nearly 20 minutes of struggle, they realized they couldn't do it alone. One of them climbed out and dialed 911. Inside, the situation worsened. Being stuck head down in a narrow shaft caused blood to rush to his head and limbs to go numb. His left leg twisted painfully into his torso, throbbing with an aching, persistent pain. But it was the sensation in his skull that became unbearable. Vision blurred, thoughts swirled, and a relentless pounding filled his head. Each heartbeat sent a wave of agony surging behind his eyes. He could feel the pressure building inside his skull, as though something inside might rupture. His neck burned, and pain radiated down his spine. Trapped in stone, his own body was turning against him. Not far away, a local man heard the emergency call over a scanner. He quickly alerted his friend, Jerry Bowen, an experienced caver. Jerry and his son, Stephen, drove quickly to the scene. Though neither had explored Shetron Cave before, the deputy fire chief from the Morinville Goodwill Volunteer Fire Department saw them as the best chance. No one else on site was small enough to reach the trapped man. Stephen, being the smaller of the 2, was selected to descend. He was given hearing and eye protection, an air meter, water, a compressed air tank, and a pneumatic chisel. One of the women, who had earlier used a camera to show rescuers how tight the space was, offered to guide him into the passage, carrying supplies. When Stephen reached the man, he was so tightly lodged that Stephen couldn't even pass him. He handed over the bag, allowing a friend to offer water to the victim. Then Stephen made his way back to retrieve more gear. Upon returning, Stephen began carefully chiseling the stone. His nerves were on edge. Every strike of the chisel could risk injuring the trapped man. Eventually, they called for a steel plate to shield him from the chisel's impact. By the time Stephen returned with the plate and a fresh air tank, things had deteriorated. The man had slipped further down, making access even harder. Working together, Stephen pushing from below and the friend pulling from above, they were able to adjust him slightly. Stephen resumed chipping away at the rock, slowly removing the final sharp projection. Finally, with one synchronized shove and pull, the man's leg popped free from the grip of the passage. It was 10 p.m., nearly 8 grueling hours since the ordeal began, when the man was finally freed and emerged into the cool night. He was immediately flown to a hospital for evaluation. Miraculously, he suffered no major injuries. He was incredibly lucky, But as we'll see in the next story, not everyone trapped underground makes it out alive. This story is a tragic one that unfolded deep within the narrow, twisting arteries of an isolated, hidden cave. Benjamin Miller, along with two companions, ventured into this uncharted cave, driven by the thrill of exploration and raw curiosity. The cave was known by very few, and feared by those who did. Its passages were painfully tight, winding in unnatural angles like a stone labyrinth built to trap. As they crawled deeper, bellies scraping against cold rock, the air grew thin, and the chill of the stone began to bite through their clothing. The beams from their headlamps flickered and bounced across jagged formations, casting long and eerie shadows on the walls. Leading the group, Benjamin noticed what seemed like a widening gap up ahead. Excited, he called back to his friends, announcing that he believed he'd found a larger chamber. Without pausing for confirmation, he decided to push forward. But the gap narrowed. Twisting, squeezing tighter, the passage bent into a cruel curve, and before Benjamin realized what was happening, he was stuck. Instant panic. He attempted to retreat, but the rocks gripped him mercilessly, clamping around his chest and spine like a vice. The cold stone felt like it was closing in with every breath. His companions crawled quickly to his side, squeezing through the cramped tunnel until they could see him. His eyes wide with fear, his breaths shallow and quick, he struggled to shift even a fraction. They tried pulling, pushing. Nothing worked. Every move made things worse. The rock pressed tighter, his body twisted at a grotesque angle. One of the companions knew they had to act. They turned and wriggled their way back through the winding crawl, finally reaching the surface to call for help. Time passed like glue. Every minute underground stretched like an hour. The cold bit deeper. Benjamin's face turned pale, sweat sticking to his skin in the icy air. His breaths grew harder, tighter, like his lungs were wrapped in wire. When the rescue team arrived, they wasted no time. But the passage was too narrow for machines, so they began chiseling by hand and preparing a manual pulley system. Still, progress was painfully slow. Benjamin's body was contorted, his chest compressed, and his breathing labored. The air inside the cave was stale and damp, offering little relief. The team tried blowing in fresh oxygen, but he was already battling for every breath, and losing. To make matters worse, the temperature dropped. His body began to shake, uncontrollably. They applied heating pads, doing their best to fight off hypothermia, but the cave was an icebox. He was fading. His face showed pure agony, lips trembling, body stiff. The rescuers chiseled, shifted, and strained. The pulley system was adjusted again, but the stone would not yield. Benjamin began to slip beyond reach, not physically, but emotionally. He could no longer respond, his strength completely drained. His body had endured more than it could handle. At last, they managed to widen the opening just enough to pull him out, but it was too late. Though they rushed him to the hospital, Benjamin Miller did not survive. His story ends not in the grand chamber he sought, but within the cold grip of a tunnel that refused to let go.